Today, Jeff Vogel with us. He's been indie since 1994. He's been making his own games his way for longer than pretty much, I think, like anybody. You're like the original indie.
There's one or two.
All right, so without further ado, here's Jeff Vogel.
Hi, check. Hi, thank you for pointing out that I am comically old. As someone who's started this in the ancient days, seeing this big a crowd of small game developers just makes my year. So thank you very much just for existing. You're awesome. That is my incredibly prosaically titled talk. The only real important word up there is sustainable, because I know a lot of you people right now are freaking out about your first game, and you should be, and I'm rooting for you, and I hope you do awesome. But I'm also worried about your second game, and your 7th, and your 20th. And what I'm really concerned about in this weird influx environment is how to stay in business. And it's a big topic with a lot of open questions. And the one I want to deal with now is pricing, because what to price your title at, when to put it on sale, when to put it in bundles, is a hugely open question, and no one knows anything. I'm going to tell you some of my guesses, some of my observations, even if I'm wrong, even if you think at the end that I'm a dumb asshole. 3 months from now, it could all be different. So first of all, stand up. So who the hell am I? I'm Jeff. I run a little mom and pop operation called Spiderweb Software. It's based in Seattle. I apologize. Starting in 1994. That's our URL. I also have a Twitter and a blog, and I'll forgot to put those in, but I'll say that at the end. What do I write? I write tiny, low budget, low production value, story heavy, reading heavy fantasy role-playing games. Windows, Mac, iPad, also I think a couple are out for Linux and Android. These are a couple of the series I've written, and these are my games. A lot of sequels because I'm full of integrity. I've written a lot of games, and they've all made money, some more than other. The most important thing I want to get across from this list, I don't write hits. Don't get me wrong, I love hits, and I hope you guys have them, but I very likely will not. I'm a bottom feeder. I write niche games for serious devotees of the genre to play when they've played all the good games. So I really need to extract all of the money I can out of each title to stay in business. And don't worry about me. I make a good living. I'm fine. But a lot of it comes from thinking carefully about prices and sales and how I'm going to get the money. So I'm going to be talking about your price, and I'm going to be talking about your game's life cycle, which I believe at this point is getting fairly well determined what the life cycle of your game is going to look like. I'm going to talk about how much to charge in US dollars. If you want to turn it to Canadian, as of this morning, multiply it by about 1.3. When you do, it's not my fault. When to have your sales and when to do bundles. And I'm interested in pricing and sales because it's not just a tool for maximizing earnings for your current game, but for your next game as well. A couple quick things I'm not going to touch upon. Hobbyist game development is awesome. People who write games in a hobbyist way, you have my full admiration. It's a great thing. It's just not my thing. Mobile free-to-play development and pricing a free-to-play game is a huge topic, which has its own conventions, and I wouldn't even begin to say words about it. So I won't. And finally, price signaling, which is the idea that by charging certain amounts, you can change people's perception of your game. For example, charging a higher amount for your game to create the illusion that it is better than it is. My personal belief is that that may be being too clever by half, but you should know that's an idea that exists. Okay, so I'm going to have to apologize. These slides are going to be kind of dry because if you know anything about my work, if you have that misfortune, you should know that visuals are not my forte. But an important background point. I've written an awful lot over the last couple of years. If you've read my blog, you might know about the indie bubble or the indie apocalypse or whatever dumb thing they're calling it this week. I'm not going to talk about it because I'm kind of tired of talking about it. It's not really that terribly interesting a topic because there's a million things have been written about it lately, and everyone comes up with their own hot take. But in the end, there is only one key point that in the end everyone comes to, everyone agrees on, and it is this. This is a tough business. It's a tough, competitive, blood sport kind of business. And it's that way, at all levels. And that's one of the reasons why you have to be really careful with your business stuff. Indie games are big because they're good. We sell a really high quality product for reasonable prices. We should be proud of ourselves. They got big about 5 or 6 years ago, and since then there's been a lot of flux up and down. A lot of things have changed really fast. There's a ton of money in indie games now. You can make a fortune. You can make a fortune that was unimaginable in the days when I started, but there's also, just vicious competition, and we all get together and we all like each other, but we are, to some extent, business competitors. And there's a lot of open questions now. Because of that flux, because of the ups and downs, a lot of the basic ideas, a lot of basic practices are still being established. And if we have something today, we're going to lose it in 3 months. I've heard developers be just scared to death of the most simple, basic ideas because they should be, because nobody knows anything. But in the end, I only have one goal. I want to retire in this business, and I want you guys to retire in this business too. I want to keep the ball rolling. The problem is that your lifespan is finite. At some point, unless the VR people are working on something really sexy, you're all going to die. And so you're only going to write so many games. And to sustain your business, you need to make sure that when you come up with that worthy product that gets some traction, that you're going to get money out of it. So I'm going to start with a few words on pricing, move to the I'm going to say how much your game is going to cost. I'm going to talk about the lifespan of your game to give some background into where that number is coming from. And I'm going to get back to the arguments for and against different price levels. So anyway, how much are you going to charge for your game? Well, of course, it depends. I mean, how niche is your market? If you're writing a really in-depth, small audience war game, you're going to need to charge more money than for a much more mass market title. How much competition are you facing? Some fields, some genres have a lot more competition than others. If there's more competition, you're probably going to need to ask for less money. How long is your game? In general, this is something that's very much in the air, but just as a rule of thumb, if you're charging more than $10 per hour of gameplay, you may be entering the danger zone. Again, this is a very controversial, very fractious topic. So I'm not going to say any more about that, except that, the second worst thing in the world is when huge hordes of internet randos are angry at you. But the worst thing in the world is when those huge hordes of angry internet randos have a point. And finally, you're going to need to think about how much money you need to stay in business. How much does it take to cover your nut? How much are your salaries? How much is your rent? Eventually you have to look at how much games like yours are selling and say, okay, my game might sell 10,000 full price copies. How much money do I need to get from each copy just to make rent? So anyway, all these factors, all of these ideas. So now suppose you have your to the extent that an average title exists, your average title. Reasonably mass market, but too much so, not too long, not too short, not too niche. How much are you going to charge? Well, you're going to flip a coin. If you get heads, it's going to be $15. And if it's tails, wait for it, it's going to be $20. Now, if you're writing an Xbox or a PlayStation game, it's going to come on one of those fancy plastic discs that make the rainbow when you shine light on it. You're charging $60. It's great to have a standard price in your industry. And, in indie games, similarly, just for everyone's sanity, we need to at some point settle on sort of a baseline, over the base pitch sort of price. And right now, that's kind of looking at $15 to $20. And I will talk in a couple minutes about where that number kind of came from. Just bear in mind that it was different 2 years ago and it may be different in 3 months. But before you decide how much you charge, let's look about the life cycle of your indie game, which I personally have divided for my own sanity into 3 phases. Okay, first you put out your game. You press the big green button and then it is out and available for sale. Now it's time to make a lot of money. This is the point where you're going to be selling your game for full price or very close to it. Steam recommends that for the first week or so, you sell your game at a certain discount, 15, 20%. My personal experience is that if Steam suggests I do something, I do it. Steam's never let me wrong. The important thing about this period, and the reason this period freaks people out so much, is because if you want to have a successful business, you're going to need to make a lot of your money in this period. The first couple months after your game comes out are going to be kind of crucial. You're going to need to make most of your money selling mostly full price copies for 2 reasons. One, that's just going to be where your money comes from. Sales and bundles are not going to keep you in business. Sales can be really good, especially if you get that sweet front page placement, But most of your money is going to come just from the first few months from people who care enough to pay full price. If you can't get people to pay full price, okay. During phase 1, keep away from sales. Keep away from bundles. You'll get plenty of offers, believe me. Humble Bundle will, if you've got a live one on the line, if you've got a decent looking title, Humble Bundle may come to you pretty fast. And let me tell you, from personal experience, saying no to Humble is hard. They make people good money, and they're good people to work with. I like the Humble people a lot. I love what they do. But, it's hard to say no to them because, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm saying no to Humble. You kind of have to for a while. You're going to be making your survival money at this point. You're going to be making the money you really need, and you need to protect the price of your game. But your sales curve is going to go something like this. Oh my God, I'm rich. Oh my God, I'm rich. Oh my God. I've been doing this for 20 years. That drop scares the crap out of me every single time. You will never look at that sharp downward curve and go, I am awesome. That will never happen. But it does because, the next sexy comes up. You may think you're awesome and someone's going to ship Undertale and you're like, oh, I'm a dumbass again. Once you hit the pain curve, then you hit phase 2. And this is where the sales start. They haven't bought it full price, but you still want their money. Now, one of the great things about the sales and the frequency of them, Valve, for example, tends to have 2 big sales every year, is that you can do the discounting gradually. I personally start with 25% off. The next big sale, I go to 50% and so on. It is also possible under certain circumstances to have a really big discount big enough to make you feel bad, but you may be doing it for Steam front page placement. And once again, if you can get that, you probably want to get it. But most of the time for your default sale, don't give away the horse too quickly. Start with a moderate discount, move the discount up from there. One of the reasons to not charge too little for your game early on is that people will buy your game on sale more likely if they think that they're getting a good deal. 25% off of a $5 game is not very exciting. 25% off of a $20 game will raise people's eyebrows maybe more than it should. It's still expensive, but hey, I'm getting a deal. So anyway, first year or 2, sale, full price, bigger sale, full price, even bigger sale, full price. But here's the thing. After a year or two, your game's going to be kind of old stinky fish. I mean, after a year or two, you've probably gotten to the point where the game's 75% off. If you can't sell the game for 75% off, then you're probably dealing with a person who doesn't care about your game. And at that point, you're on to phase 3. At this point, everyone who really cares about you owns it. And now at this point, you're trying to do 2 things. You're trying to squeeze those last few drops of blood out of the stone, and you're trying to get attention for your next game. Hopefully after 2 years, you've got another project on the line, or at least thinking about it. Now you want to get it into as many hands as possible, get it in front of the eyes of much press as possible, so that you have more of an audience built in for your next game. What does that mean? For me personally, it means 3 things. For now is the time to say hello to bundles. Now is the time when the bundles are okay. Humble if you can get it. In my observation, Humble is the only one that I listen to anymore. The other ones, they're okay, they're good people. I'm not saying they're bad, it's just, it's been a long time since I've gotten decent money out of a bundle that's not Humble. But I'll still say yes to them sometimes, because it's still eyeballs, it's still attention, it's still getting your name out there. Let's see, then there's deep discounts for sales. This is when you're turning your sales to 80%, 90%. And similarly, Steam Weekly sales, where every 8 weeks or so you can put your game on sale in the Steam Weekly sale bargain bin for a big discount. Now, at this point, I don't have a lot of pride in my work. You put your game in a Humble bundle, someone's spending $1 for 10 Steam keys, you're selling your game for $0.10 a piece to people who are not gonna play it. They don't care. They're the internet equivalent of hoarders. There are some people who and I'm one of these people, who just gets a big, warm satisfaction feeling from opening up their Steam library and seeing 5,000 games. Hey man, their dime spends just as well as anybody else's dime. It's good to feel proud of what you do. And when you know that the people who are buying your product don't care about it, sometimes it makes it a little hard to look in the mirror. So I just listen to the sound of my beautiful, beautiful money. One bit of good news, and this is something that everyone at some point, even I still worry about sometimes. Being in a Humble bundle isn't going to kill your game. Not only that, weirdly, paradoxically, I've been in a bunch of bundles so far, and every time I'm in a bundle, when the bundle ends, my sales are still higher for a while. I don't understand it either. Don't worry about killing off your game. Similarly, some people worry that people are going to buy the keys in your bundle and resell them somewhere else. It's life. Try not to think about it. When you're in bundles, you're worried about your next game anyway. Just collect your dimes, get your attention, and keep your eye on your sustainability and your next thing. So let's get back to pricing. So Econ 101, and I'm going to apologize right now because if there's anywhere I should have a chart, it's here, but I forgot. When you raise the price of your game, you're going to make more money per copy, but you're going to sell less of it. Sell it for $20, you're going to sell less than if it's for $15, but each of your tickets is higher. You're going to make more money. Everyone in any for-profit business, the curve of price versus sales sort of goes like this. There's a big lump in the middle somewhere where your price is at just the right level, where just enough people are buying it that that the amount you're earning is maximum. And unfortunately, you're never really going to know what that magic price is until you ship the damn thing and then find out that you were wrong. But the important thing is that right now, to me, it kind of looks like $15 to $20 is about the place where that curve is going to be maximum. You're $20, sell fewer copies, you make more money, your total earnings probably going to be about the same. Obviously, again, that there are exceptions, like really in-depth titles people get really passionate about, but that's a small audience. You have to charge more for those. You're not going to get a ton of sales with a really obscure, really gritty tactical war game, so the people who want that sort of thing, they got to pay for it. You want something weird that there isn't much of, it costs more money. Similarly, at least small, short titles with broad appeal, Her story, for example, is a fantastic example. I believe that started out the gate at $7, which was just about the perfect price for it. You're probably going to want to strongly consider charging less for that, because otherwise, the word gets around and people will give you thumbs down on Steam just out of spite. Other factors. If your price is higher, sales matter more. If your price is higher, when you do go on sale, it's going to be more exciting. On the other hand, you're going to sell fewer copies. And if you're like me, you do still manage to maintain a certain amount of pride in your work. I went into this business to bring the world joy, to bring little happy toys to all the little boys and girls. And if I charge more money, then there's less of that. On the other hand, there's fewer support tickets, because sometimes I don't actually want to hear from all the little boys and girls. But one key point going forward in this, the key difference, I've heard this said many times, the key difference between a professional and an amateur is this. There's really only one key difference. A professional knows how much to charge for work. A professional is able to look at the value of his or her time, say, I am worth this much, and then look out in the world and say, this is what I cost. I'm not ashamed for asking it. And then you just hope you picked the right number. But don't be ashamed to charge money for your work. If you look at your game and go, well, I think this is 15, but on the other hand, how good could it be? It's by me, and I know myself. I'm terrible. And then charge $10 for it, you might be slitting your own throat. Undertale made a fortune. Undertale deserved a fortune. Undertale was $10. That goes against what I'm saying. But I'm not saying that a hit can't make money at $10. I'm saying that maybe it would have made more at 15. But then again, guy who made it's already rich. So by $10, it's getting in tons of more people's hands. He gets more karma. There's not a lot of solid answers in this business. I'm just yeah. You should see me pacing back and forth at 3 in the morning thinking about this stuff. There is one reassuring thing that I can tell you, and you're not going to find it reassuring at first, but maybe eventually you will. It's not that there is no one right answer. It's not like I know the correct answer for the price of your game, or someone else knows it, someone knows it for sure, and they're just hiding it from you. You won't know if you made exactly the right choice until your game ships. And there is a certain liberation in that. At a certain point, you are allowed, after agonizing about it and being frustrated by the question, of just going with your gut, of looking at your title and saying, screw it, I'm awesome. This is awesome. This is a $25 game, and if anyone has a problem with it, I'll fight them. Plus also, if you pick a number that's too high, you can always lower it later and make yourself a hero, but it's really hard to raise the number later, or just throwing that in. There's no secret answer. It's all open questions. It might have changed in 3 months. Go with your gut, because generally, by and large, your gut is going to be pretty smart. I really hope that you all make a lot of money. Good luck.